Welcome back guys to another part of What If Naruto Was Son of Hades. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video. Let's get started. Chapter 10. Does the Oracle do drugs? Naruto, Prince of the Underworld. Chapter 10. Fear Pole, losing his friends and those he loves. 9 ghosts, 4 unnaturally pale old guys who like little boys. 10 losing to fate. 3 everyone had moved to the area in the middle of all the cabins. People had been shocked about Percy being the son of Poseidon, but that was trampled on by the shock of Naruto's lineage. His family must have been interesting to keep the blood of a primordial goddess, or ancient titan, running through his veins. Naruto, you never cease to amaze and surprise people, that much is for sure. Chiron said with a sigh. Yeah, I got that a lot back home. I was always doing the impossible, like this time I painted the Hokage Monument, our version of Mount Rushmore, in broad daylight, wearing Kill Me orange, and in a ninja village. I mean, no one noticed until after I was done. Naruto chuckled and looked at everyone's reaction. Percy heard this story already, but he never could stop laughing at it. For some reason, Annabeth looked a little peeved. Chiron and many other campers' jaws were on the floor, and a lot of people in the Hermes cabin had a new hero. Oh, and let me resummon Gamekiki. He is going to want to know the same thing as you guys. Summoning Jutsu. In a poof of smoke, the orange toad was back. Kichi, for now Jutsu, listen and you might learn something. The toad Jutsu nodded. Naruto, how did that go? Asked Chiron. If I heard correctly, the gods said there were ninja ranks in that world you come from. Oh yeah, that was fun. I did that as an academy student. They learn how to be ninja, and lead Shinin, Jonin, and Umbu on a wild goose chase throughout the whole village, and the only one who managed to catch me was my academy teacher, since he was looking for me anyway. I skipped class that day, Naruto said, while scratching the back of his head. Annabeth looked at him oddly before asking, I am guessing that those names were ninja ranks. Yeah, we got the academy students, then Genin, Shinin, Jonin, Umbu, and finally Akage, who is the strongest ninja in the village and its leader. Wow, that is amazing. Grover said, think that Naruto must be some high-level ninja. So when you left, what rank were you? Genin. Came the simple reply that made a lot of people sweat drop. Anyway, what I wanted to ask you was why you did not tell us about Thalia. Chiron said. I did not think you would believe me. Naruto shrugged. Well, I guess that might have happened. Now, do you have any quirks you could have gotten from any of your lineage? Chiron asked, and everyone leaned in to listen. Well, I am guessing my limbo power is from Dad. I also have some jutsu styles like Hellfire, Shadow, and I might have the Death style. That is all I know so far. I don't know much about Lady Nyx, so I don't know if I have any powers from her. Now for Lady Aphrodite, I would say my sexy jutsu could be from her. Naruto said thoughtfully while the toad started laughing, remembering the story of how Naruto got Jiraiya to teach him sexy jutsu. I am not quite sure what you mean by that, but it must be amusing, seeing as your toad summon is laughing. Chiron said. Yeah, well, I created this jutsu to flush out the perverts in my old village, and believe me, there are a lot. Naruto grumbled. Especially both of my sensei. Kakashi would read his porn in public while Jiraiya was the creator of said book. So I would call it my pervert knockout jutsu. Can you demonstrate? Mr. D asked, shocking Naruto. Sure. Naruto while gather chakra for it. Percy, who had asked the same thing once upon a time, held the bridge of his nose in annoyance and turned around, getting a raised eyebrow from Annabeth. Ladies, I ask that you please don't kill me. Sexy jutsu. In a poof of smoke, Naruto had turned into a naked girl, with wisps of smoke covering her private areas. For a moment, there was silence. Percy counted down in his herd and smirked with he heard the familiar sound of people hitting the ground, which was mostly the guys of the Ares cabin and some from the Hermes cabin. Naruto's sweat dropped when he saw a lot of people, including Mr. D, fall back with bloody noses. The girls of the Aphrodite were looking at the jutsu appraising before nodding their heads that it was good. The other girls were looking at the fallen boys with murderous glares, and thankfully it was not directed at him. Well, if you would please return back to normal, Chiron said with a small blush on his face. We need to assign to you to new cabins. Naruto nodded and ended the jutsu, much to the guy's relief. I have a question though, Naruto stated. If my dad, Minato Namikaze, was actually Hades, Lord of the Dead, in disguise, then would my mom would be the daughter of Aphrodite, goddess of love, but how does Nyx, the primordial goddess of night, play into all of this? Naruto asked, making the toad look at him so fast you would think he just got whiplash. I would have to guess that Lady Nyx is your great grandmother, and it is thanks to Aphrodite and Hades that you still have her blood in you. Also, having her blood makes you part Titan as well. That is because the children of her and her sister Gaia were Titans. Chiron said, a little uneasy. Aya? I am part human, part god, and part Titan. I am the deluxe package. Naruto said with a hand on his head. That statement though made a lot of the campers chuckle. Right, Percy, you will be in your father's cabin, so go get your stuff. Chiron said, and Percy just nodded while he and Luke quickly got his stuff. Now Naruto, I am not so sure where to put you. Oh, I don't think we would mind, called out a beautiful girl with black hair and brown eyes. Ah, thank you, Silena. Naruto, Naruto. Chiron said as he looked at Naruto, who was looking at something that was not there in the space between Poseidon's and Zeus's cabins. I noticed there is not a Hades cabin. Naruto deadpanned. Ah, well, we never had any kids from Hades in the US. He paused for a moment, letting that sink in. Naruto froze and shivered. You have got to be kidding me? I am related to Hitler of all people. Unfortunately, yes. Grover groaned, so that was why we never had the cabin. Maybe we can. Naruto said as he ran to the empty spot between cabins. Percy, who had gotten back a little while ago, asked, okay, what do you mean by that? Well, when I got to this world, I was given a scroll that had a list of jutsu in it. You know, like that hellfire jutsu I used. There was on in it that said to only use when the time was right. I would think now is the time for that jutsu to be unleashed. Naruto said in excitement, and began a set of hand signs and loading them with chakra. Interesting. Chiron said. Summoning jutsu, rising house of the dead. Grover, Gamekaki, and a few others were getting a bad feeling about this. After he called out the jutsu, the ground began to shake and Naruto had to jump away as a fissure opened up and a building as black as night rose from the ground. Though, what unsettled everyone was the screams of the dead that came along with the new cabin. Well, that's new. Percy deadpanned, startling a lot of people. Yep, and now we have a Hades cabin. Naruto beamed. That is good and all, but you are still welcome in the Aphrodite cabin, just so you know. Chiron stated before walking away, rubbing his head because this experience has given him a major headache. Still, at least the blonde could talk to Thalia, which was always a plus. I have a question. The orange toad spoke up. What is it, Kichi? Naruto replied. Why are you so young? Are you kidding me? I have only been gone for half a year. Over there, it has been 3 years. Kichi replied. Say what? Naruto whispered as he felt like a ton of bricks had fallen on him. Really, the eclipse must be soon then. Mr. D said with interest, getting a lot of confused looks. It means that it has only been 3 years over in Naruto's world, and if that is the case, time problem will reverse and 3 years will pass here and time will have barely passed over there. Okay, so what is so special about the eclipse? Naruto asked. Oh, I am sure you will find out. Mr. D smirked. XXXX, you what? Thalia yelled. You actually beat a huge hellhound with those ninja techniques. Yes, and I let slip that I can talk to you. Naruto said with his eyes closed, waiting for the girl to hit him, but it never happened. He looked back at her and saw that she was smiling sadly. So how did they take it, Grover, Annabeth, and Luke, I mean? Thalia asked nervously. Well, Grover was bouncing off the trees, much to their annoyance. Annabeth was very happy and that she to help you out, which I will do. I will get you out of this place, even if it kills me. That is a promise. Naruto said with a foxy smile that made Thalia blush a bit. And Luke, she asked softly. He was the oddball. He just smiled sadly and said to protect you. Which I promised I would. Naruto said thoughtfully until she hugged him. Thank you, Naruto. Hey, it's no problem, Thalia. He said surprised but hugged her back anyway. He got a smile on his face and said, you know, that incident made our parent claim us. Backing up, Thalia smiled and asked, so, are you going to tell me? Percy is the son of Poseidon. Naruto said, making Thalia's eyes widen. Me on other hand, that is different. I got a chain going on. What? Well, I am the son of Hades and I am also related to Aphrodite and Nyx. Naruto shrugged like it was no big deal, but the look on Thalia's face told him otherwise. So you are also part Titan? She asked shocked. Yeah, but the thing is, I don't know how I am related to Aphrodite when I don't act like her kids. Thalia thought about it and thought that he did not act like Hades' kids either. Maybe because of the mixed blood of Aphrodite and Hades, it would explain some things. You are not super crazy like Hades' kids and you are not worried about your looks like Aphrodite's kids. You are in between, which is pretty good to me. Yeah, I am so glad I am not Hitler of all people, Naruto growled, while saying that name with venom. Though the only thing I can think of that would make me related to Aphrodite would be my sexy jutsu. Thalia gave him a deadpanned look. Does he not look in the mirror? Well, I am sure you will find out someday. Yeah, I guess. Anyway, I should get going, curfew and all, Naruto said with a sad smile. He really liked Thalia for some reason. Okay, Thalia said, giving him another hug, enjoying the feeling of being in contact with another human, especially Naruto because he seemed to emit a lot of warmth. Naruto saw her smile a bit and returned the hug. Oh, and when I get out of here, you have got to show me this sexy jutsu of yours. Naruto chuckled nervously. Then you will be in for a blast if you like to see all the guys get blown back by nosebleeds. Thalia just smiled as she saw her friend fade away, savoring the warmth until he was gone. Back outside, we see Naruto standing in front of the tree with a palm on it. Opening his eyes, he smiled to himself and turned around only to freeze. The first thing he noticed that it was nighttime and that there were two people just standing there. The first was a very beautiful woman with long black hair, in a very high-class looking dress. The second was a tall man with sharp-looking eyes, black hair, and was in a midnight black business suit. Can I help you? Naruto asked warily. The woman smiled before saying, Hello Naruto, I am NYX and this is my husband, Erebus. Naruto's eyes widened and said, Wow, the goddess of the night. But I am not sure who you are, sir. I am the god of darkness and shadow, the man said simply. Okay, now I am not being rude or anything, but why are you two here? Naruto asked, not understanding. The woman smiled. Naruto, I came here to see you. In a sense, you are one of my children. But since you were born this way, you are not immortal. That can be fixed since the deities have great interest in you, which is mostly because you are not like any other demi-deity they have seen. Demi-deity. Yes. Erebus spoke. You are part god, part titan, and part human. That has never happened or never been acknowledged before anyway. Right, and normally we would be your great-grandparents, but I don't like that, so we will do something about that. NYX replied as she and Erebus put a hand on either shoulder and Naruto glowed for a moment. Naruto felt weird. What did you do and why? We simply strengthened your titan blood. As for why, well, when the prophecy that surrounds the Big Three's children is over, you will be given a chance to become immortal, along with anyone else you wish to be with you. Erebus said, since Hades strengthened your god blood by being your father, we decided to do the same. Also, along your journey to the prophecy, you will meet your sibling and they will give you a bit of their power as they want to see what you will become. Another thing we gave you is some jutsu styles. Erebus explained. Though you will have to create your own jutsu. What you got from NYX and I is the night/darkness style. I also gave you what my father wishes to give you, the chaos style. Sister Gaia also sees great potential in you and has asked me to give you this. He then pointed to a charm on Naruto's wristband. It was in the shape of a gauntlet. That is the Terra Force. It gives you slight control over the earth and gives you better control and more power if you have any earth jutsu. Not to mention it gives off a lot of strength. I don't know what to say, but thanks. Naruto said with a genuine smile. NYX came up and hugged him. It is no problem, but we want you to call us mom and dad too. Oh, and know that I will always be looking out for you, just like I always have when you stared off into the night and felt better because of it. No problem. Naruto returned the hug with tears in his eyes. She backed up and in a flash of darkness, they were gone. No problem at all. Later that night, Naruto would have the same dream as Percy would. The dream where Poseidon and Zeus were fighting in Greek armor while Hades cheered from the sidelines with his ghost cheerleaders. Well, that was until a voice that seemed to be from underground woke them up. Back in Konoha, Hokage Tower, Jiraiya and Tsunade were sitting at desk that Tsunade usually did paperwork, but since she threatened Shizune, they were relaxing. Today, they were playing a poker game and drinking. Well, that was until a familiar orange toad popped into the office. Gamakaki, what are you doing here? Asked a surprised Jiraiya. Naruto summoned me and it has only been half a year over where he is. Say what? Commented Tsunade. Yeah, and Minato was not really Minato. He was actually some dude called Hades, god of the underworld. That made both of the Sunin have wide eyes. So, Naruto is in the world of the Greek gods. Tsunade all but yelled. Yeah, and we beat a larger than average hellhound. Kichi beamed. Though the weird thing is that someone named Mr. D said that this time rap is going to reverse and 3 years will have passed there and only a half a year or so will pass over here until some eclipse. Having lived long enough, they knew the significance of that event. I guess it will be happening again. Jiraiya sighed. But this time, we will have something to look forward to. Tsunade said with a smile, but Gamakaki just looked on confused. Back with Naruto. Come down, little heroes, the voice crooned. Come down? The sand split beneath them, opening up a crevice straight down to the center of the earth. Their feet slipped, and darkness swallowed them. Naruto was sure Percy had already woken up because he did not see his ghostly form in this dream anymore. He, however, stayed right where he was and fell until he was floating. He looked around, but only found darkness. Well, that was until 2 evil-looking eyes and 2 rows of very sharp teeth. The hell are you? Naruto asked with no fear. What is this? No fear. I did not show fear to half the Kraken's power, so I don't think I will show fear to some freak in the dark. Insolence? I will teach you to fear me, my unique demi-deity. Yeah, well, until then, ciao. Naruto said as he shimmered from view. XXXX Naruto? Open the door, I got Percy, we have to get to the big house. Grover's voice came from his door. Grumbling, Naruto opened up the door to let Grover into the Hades cabin. What does he need us for? Naruto said, rubbing his eyes. Just hurry, and put on some clothes, you are only in your boxers. Yeah, Naruto said as he walked back in, and a few minutes later, he was in his usual attire. Okay, I am ready. On the way there, Percy looked really nervous for some reason, like he thought he was in trouble for some reason. Naruto put a hand on the boy's shoulder, and when the son of Poseidon looked at him, he just smiled. That seemed to calm Percy a bit. I don't understand how you can be so calm. I mean, we are a couple of kids that should not exist. Simple, I don't think about it. Naruto smirked. That just caused Percy to sigh, he should have known. Naruto looked up and saw that the sky looked like it was ready to storm. Whistling, Naruto said, that is one big storm, I wonder it will actually rain. No, Grover said. It never rains here unless we want it to. Percy found himself agreeing to this because for as long as they have been here, it never rained, let alone being overcast at all. What the heck is that, then? Asked Percy. Grover glanced uneasily at the sky. It'll pass around us. Bad weather always does. They left it all that, but Naruto got the feeling that their half-goat friend was not telling them everything, because to him, that was a big-ass storm. At the volleyball pit, the kids from Apollo's cabin were playing a morning game against the Satyrs. Dionysus's twins were walking around in the strawberry fields, making the plants grow. Everybody was going about their normal business, but they looked tense. They kept their eyes on the storm. All 3 walked up to the front porch of the big house. Dionysus sat at the pinnacle table in his tiger-striped Hawaiian shirt with his Diet Coke, just as he had on my first day. Chiron sat across the table in his fake wheelchair. They were playing against invisible opponents, 2 sets of cards hovering in the air. Naruto wondered how the hell they did that, but stayed quiet for now. Well, Mr. D said without looking up. Our little celebrities. Come closer, boys, Mr. D said. And don't expect me to bow to you, mortal, just because old Barnaclebeard is your father. He pointed to Percy and then smirked at Naruto. He actually liked the blonde, but no way was he going to say that out loud. Same to you, even if you are related to those 3. At that, a net of lightning spread across the clouds above. Mr. D didn't seem to care. Blah blah blah. Chiron feigned interest in his pinnacle cards. Grover cowered by the railing, his hooves clopping back and forth. Percy looked a little freaked, and Naruto, he looked up, wondering if he could pull that off, that or Sasuke anyway. If I had my way, Dionysus said, I would cause your molecules to erupt in flames. We'd sweep up the ashes and be done with a lot of trouble. But Chiron seems to feel this would be against my mission at this cursed camp, to keep you little brats safe from harm. Spontaneous combustion is a form of harm, Mr. D, Chiron put in. You don't say. Naruto deadpanned. Nonsense, Dionysus said. Percy wouldn't feel a thing. Nevertheless, I've agreed to restrain myself. I'm thinking of turning you into a dolphin instead, sending you back to your father. Mr. D. Chiron warned, while Naruto why everyone seemed to be on Percy's case. Oh, all right, Dionysus relented. There's one more option. But it's deadly foolishness. Dionysus rose, and the invisible player's cards dropped to the table. I'm off to Olympus for the emergency meeting. If they are still here when I get back, I'll turn Percy into an Atlantic bottlenose and, well, I am not sure what to turn Naruto into. Do you understand? And Percy Jackson, if you're at all smart, you'll see that's a much more sensible choice than what Chiron feels you must do. Dionysus picked up a playing card, twisted it, and it became a plastic rectangle. A credit card? No. A security pass. He snapped his fingers. The air seemed to fold and bend around him. He became a hologram, then a wind, then he was gone, leaving only the smell of fresh-pressed grapes lingering behind. Show off. I would not talk if I were you, Naruto. Percy said. Chiron smiled and said, I would like you boys to sit down, please. They compiled. Chiron laid his cards on the table, a winning hand he hadn't gotten to use. Sad, Tsunade would probably kill for that. Tell me, boys, what do you make of the hellhound? It scared me, Percy replied. If Naruto hadn't made it extra crispy, I would not be here right now. It was odd for me. I didn't listen much to my old teacher Kakashi, but if I were to look underneath the underneath, I think someone summoned it here somehow, though, I would have to say that it would be a cool summoning contract. Naruto said thoughtfully, making Percy sweat drop. Trust me, you two will have fought far worse, when you are done. Especially you, Naruto, Chiron commented. Done? With what? Asked Percy. Yeah, and why me? Simple, your blood is very powerful and it repels the weaker monsters, but only the strongest of the monsters will come after you, Chiron explained. Now Percy, what I meant was your joint quest. This kind of quest hasn't been done before, so do you accept it? Depends on what we have to do, Naruto said with his arms crossed while Percy nodded to his comment. Chiron grimaced. Well, that's the hard part, the details. Thunder rumbled across the valley. The storm clouds had now reached the edge of the beach. The boys looked over and thought it odd that the sea looked to be boiling over. Poseidon, Hades, and Zeus, Percy said. They're fighting over something valuable, something that was stolen, aren't they? Chiron and Grover exchanged looks. Chiron sat forward in his wheelchair. How did you know that? Percy looked embarrassed at that for some reason. The weather since Christmas has been weird, like the sea and the sky are fighting. Then I talked to Annabeth, and she'd overheard something about a theft. And I've also been having these dreams. Huh, you too huh? Naruto asked, which made Percy's eyes widen. I knew it, Grover said. Hush, Satyr, Chiron ordered. But it is their quest. Grover's eyes were bright with excitement. It must be. Only the Oracle can determine. Chiron stroked his bristly beard. Nevertheless, Percy, you correct. Your fathers and Zeus are having their worst quarrel in centuries. They are fighting over something valuable that was stolen. To be precise, a lightning bolt. Of course Hades is merely egging them on for his own amusement. What? Percy chuckled nervously. It always has to be lightning. Naruto slapped his face. Huh? Percy asked. Percy. I was not joking, I got run through with a lightning blade twice. Naruto said stiffly, and he lifted his shirt to reveal the Chidori scar, making Percy and Grover's eyes widen and causing Chiron to wince. The horseman quickly recovered after seeing this, and that only strengthened what he was about to say. Do not take this lightly, Chiron warned. I'm not talking about some tinfoil-covered zigzag you'd see in a second-grade play. I'm talking about a 2-foot-long cylinder of high-grade celestial bronze, capped on both ends with god-level explosives. Thankfully, it has not been used as a sword. Oh man, I bet Shinobi would love to have that, Naruto chuckled, but was silenced by Chiron's glare. Zeus's master bolt, Chiron said, getting worked up now, the symbol of his power, from which all other lightning bolts are patterned. The first weapon made by the Cyclopes for the war against the Titans, the bolt that sheared the top off Mount Etna and hurled Cronus from his throne, the master bolt, which packs enough power to make mortal hydrogen bombs look like firecrackers. And it's missing? Asked Percy. Stolen? Chiron said. By who? asked Naruto. By whom? Chiron corrected. Once a teacher, always a teacher. By you too. Percy's jaw dropped. Naruto got a pissed off look. Of all the arg. At least Chiron held up a hand. That's what Zeus thinks. During the winter solstice, at last council of the gods, Zeus and Poseidon had an argument. The usual nonsense. Mother Rhea always liked you best. Air disasters are more spectacular than sea disasters, etc. Afterward, Zeus realized his master bolt was missing, taken from the throne room under his very nose. He immediately blamed Poseidon. Of course he blamed Hades as well. He think it would be useful in the underground. A lot of people know he really couldn't care less about their petty arguments, but he would not stay down if someone accused him of something like that. Now, a god cannot usurp another god's symbol of power directly. That is forbidden by the most ancient of divine laws. But Zeus believes your fathers convinced a human hero to take it. But we didn't. Patience and listen, children, Chiron said. Zeus has good reason to be suspicious. The forges of the Cyclopes are under the ocean, which gives Poseidon some influence over the makers of his brother's lightning. Zeus believes Poseidon has taken the master bolt, and is now secretly having the Cyclopes build an arsenal of illegal copies, which might be used to topple Zeus from his throne. The only thing Zeus wasn't sure about was which hero Poseidon used to steal the bolt. Now Poseidon has openly claimed you as his son. You were in New York over the winter holidays. You could easily have snuck into Olympus. Zeus believes he has found his thief. Okay, so why me then? Naruto asked. Everyone knows Hades is bitter for being tricked into ruling the underworld. Zeus thinks that Hades is conspiring with Poseidon to get a copy or the real thing, as he wants to take Zeus's rule away. Okay, but I have never been to Olympus. Naruto deadpanned. Yeah, me either. Zeus is crazy. Percy was freaking out. Chiron and Grover glanced nervously at the sky. The clouds didn't seem to be parting around them, as Grover had promised. They were rolling straight over our valley, sealing them in like a coffin lid. Percy. Grover said. We don't use the C word to describe the Lord of the Sky. Perhaps paranoid, Chiron suggested, while Naruto grumbled something about power-hungry gods. Then again, Poseidon has tried to unseat Zeus before, same with Hades. I believe that was question 38 on your final exam. He looked at Percy as if he actually expected him to remember question 38. Naruto just rolled his eyes. Something about a golden net. I guessed. Poseidon and Hera and a few other gods, they, trapped Zeus and wouldn't let him out until he promised to be a better ruler. Right. I guess for my dad, that story that made into a movie, Clash of the Titans. Naruto took a whack at it. Correct, both of you? Prion said. And Zeus has never trusted Poseidon, nor Hades since. Of course, Poseidon denies stealing the Master Bolt. He took great offense at the accusation. The two have been arguing back and forth for months, threatening war. Hades just said he didn't, not feeling like starting a war, for he already has too much work. And now, you two have come along the proverbial last straw. But we are just kids. I don't even think Naruto could pull that off. Percy freaked. Percy, Grover cut in, if you were Zeus, and you already thought your brothers was plotting to overthrow you, then your brothers suddenly admitted that they had broken the sacred oath he took after World War II, that they have fathered a couple of new mortal heroes who might be used as a weapon against you. Wouldn't that put a twist in your toga? But I didn't do anything. Poseidon, my dad, he didn't really have this Master Bolt stolen, did he? Yeah, me either. Like you said, my dad is just too busy in the underworld. Naruto growled. Chiron sighed. Most thinking observers would agree that thievery is not Poseidon's nor Hades' style. But the sea god is too proud to try convincing Zeus of that, and Hades has just become too lazy. Zeus has demanded that they return the bolt by the summer solstice. That's June 21st, 10 days from now. Poseidon wants an apology for being called a thief by the same date, and Hades doesn't care either way, just that this matter be solved before he is overloaded. I hoped that diplomacy might prevail, that Hera or Demeter or Hestia would make the three brothers see sense. But your arrival has inflamed Zeus's temper. Now neither god will back down. Unless someone intervenes, unless the Master Bolt is found and returned to Zeus before the solstice, there will be war. And do you know what a full-fledged war would look like? Percy. Bad. Percy guessed. Naruto snorted. I have read about the shinobi wars contrary to everyone's belief back home, and they were bad. I would have to believe this would be a lot worse. Imagine the world in chaos. Nature at war with itself. Olympians forced to choose sides between Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon. Destruction. Carnage. Millions dead. Western civilization turned into a battleground so big it will make the Trojan War look like a water balloon fight. Yikes. Naruto cringed. Bad, Percy repeated. And you too, Percy Jackson. Naruto Uzumaki would be the first two to feel Zeus's wrath. Percy had a dumbstruck look on his face and Naruto actually looked nervous. So we have to find the stupid bolt, Percy said, and return it to Zeus. Yeah, I would rather do that. I am not sure I am strong enough to beat some god. Naruto chuckled nervously. What better peace offering, Chiron said, than to have the son of Poseidon and the son of Hades return Zeus's property. If Poseidon doesn't have it, where is the thing? Percy asked. I believe I know. Chiron's expression was grim. Part of a prophecy I had years ago. Well, some of the lines make sense to me now. But before I can say more, you must officially take up the quest. You must seek the counsel of the oracle. Why can't you tell me where the bolt is beforehand? Percy asked. Because if I did, you would be too afraid to accept the challenge. Percy swallowed. Good reason. You agree then? Percy looked to Grover, who nodded, and then to Naruto, who looked ready for anything. They nodded to each other and at the same time, they said, we accept. Besides, it is better than being turned into a dolphin, Percy stated, which made Naruto chuckle. Then it's time you two consulted the oracle, Chiron said. Go upstairs to the attic. When you come back down, assuming you're still sane, we will talk more. Naruto's eye twitched. That was never a good sign. What could this oracle be like? It can't be that bad, can it? He would soon find out as he and Percy went up 4 floors that ended under a green trapdoor. Percy pulled the cord and it swung open to reveal a ladder. The warm air from above smelled like mildew and rotten wood and something else, something that Percy remembered from biology class and Naruto from the one man he really didn't like. Snakes. Of course it really smelled bad, so they covered their faces as they went up. The attic was filled with Greek hero junk, armor stands covered in cobwebs, once bright shields pitted with rust, old leather steamer trunks plastered with stickers saying Ithaca, Circe's Isle, and Land of the Amazons. One long table was stacked with glass jars filled with pickled things, severed hairy claws, huge yellow eyes, various other parts of monsters. A dusty mounted trophy on the wall looked like a giant snake's head, but with horns and a full set of shark's teeth. The plaque read, Hydra Head No. 1, Woodstock, NY, 1969. By the window, sitting on a wooden tripod stool, was the most gruesome memento of all, a mummy. Not the wrapped-in cloth kind, but a human female body shriveled to a husk. She wore a tie-dyed sundress, lots of beaded necklaces, and a headband over long black hair. The skin of her face was thin and leathery over her skull, and her eyes were glassy white slits, as if the real eyes had been replaced by marbles. She'd been dead a long, long time. Percy got a freaked-out look on his face while Naruto had an uncomfortable look. Then, a green mist poured from the mummy's mouth, coiling over the floor in thick tendrils, hissing like 20,000 snakes. Percy fell over and tried to get out, but the trapdoor was shut tight. Naruto was stone still as he glared at the mist, not liking this. Then they heard a voice in their heads. I am the spirit of Delphi, speaker of the prophecies of Phoebus Apollo, slayer of the mighty Python. Approach, seekers, and ask. Naruto could tell this was freaking out his friend, so he put a hand on his shoulder and it seemed to work some. Looking back at it, he had to admit it was a bit creepy. That green mist was its form of speaking to them and it did not feel evil like some things they had encountered so far, so he would give it a chance and it seemed Percy would too. What is my destiny? They asked at the same time. The mist swirled more thickly, collecting right in front of them and around the table with the pickled monster part jars. Suddenly there were 4 men sitting around the table, playing cards. Their faces became clearer. It was Smelly Gabe and his buddies, along with Tsunade. Naruto smirked at the image of Gabe. He had beaten the fool at his own game. He also noticed that Percy looked pissed for a second before calming down, realizing the man was not actually here. Gabe turned toward them and spoke in the rasping voice of the oracle, You shall go west, and face the god who has turned. Tsunade folded and said, The prince of the underworld shall meet his future and learn of the truth. His buddy on the right looked up and said in the same voice, You shall find what was stolen, and see it. safely returned. The guy on the left threw in 2 poker chips, then said, you shall be betrayed by one who calls you a friend. Finally, Eddie, the building super, delivered the worst line of all, and you shall fail to save what matters most. In the end, the figures began to dissolve, and as the mist retreated, coiling into a huge green serpent and slithering back into the mouth of the mummy, Percy cried, wait, what do you mean? What friend? What will I fail to save? The tail of the mist snake disappeared into the mummy's mouth. She reclined back against the wall. Her mouth closed tight, as if it hadn't been open in 100 years. The attic was silent again, abandoned, nothing but a room full of mementos. Well, wasn't that helpful? Naruto's voice startled Percy, and the boy could cut the blonde's sarcasm with a knife. Come on, Percy said shakily, let's get out of here, this place is creeping me out. XXXX well, Chiron asked. She said we would retrieve what was stolen. Percy sighed. Grover sat forward, chewing excitedly on the remains of a Diet Coke can. That's great. What did the Oracle say exactly? Chiron pressed. This is important. She said we would go west and face a god who had turned. We would retrieve what was stolen and see it safely returned. I knew it, Grover said. Chiron didn't look satisfied. Anything else? Naruto saw that Percy didn't want to speak about it, and he kept quiet as well. That last line was disturbing. No, Percy said. That's about it. Well, there was this bit about the prince of the underworld meeting his future and learning the truth, but I am not sure what that means. I see, Chiron said as he studied their faces. Just know this, the oracle's words often have double meanings. Don't dwell on them too much. The truth is not always clear until events come to pass. Okay, Percy said, anxious to change topics. So where do we go? Who's this god in the west? Think, Percy, Chiron said. If Zeus and Poseidon weaken each other in a war, who stands to gain? Somebody else who wants to take over. The boy guessed. Yes, quite. Someone who harbors a grudge, who has been unhappy with his lot since the world was divided eons ago, whose kingdom would grow powerful with the deaths of millions. Someone who hates his brothers for forcing him into an oath to have no more children, an oath that all 3 of them have now broken. Hades/Dad, the boys said at the same time. Chiron nodded. The Lord of the Dead is the only possibility. A scrap of aluminum dribbled out of Grover's mouth. Whoa, wait. What? A fury came after Percy and Naruto, Chiron reminded him. She watched the young men until she was sure of their identity, then tried to kill them. Furies obey only one lord, Hades. Yes, but Hades hates all heroes, Grover protested. Especially if he has found out Percy is a son of Poseidon, and that Naruto is his son. A hellhound got into the forest, Chiron continued. Those can only be summoned from the fields of punishment, and it had to be summoned by someone within the camp. Hades must have a spy here. He must suspect Poseidon will try to use Percy to clear his name. Hades would very much like to kill this young half-blood before he can take on the quest. Hey, Naruto growled. I know that Hades is an ass, but don't jump to conclusions. Maybe he is losing control of his monster. That could be cause enough for those creatures to attack me as well. Chiron stared at Naruto for a moment and smiled. You could be right, but he is still a possibility. Naruto didn't like that, but he just accepted it anyway. Great, 2 major gods what to kill me. Percy mumbled. Naruto just punched Percy's shoulder and said, don't worry, even if I am not ready yet, I won't let any of my precious people die on me. Thanks. Percy replied with a smile. But a quest too. Grover swallowed. I mean, couldn't the Master Bolt be in some place like Maine? Maine's very nice this time of year. Hades sent a minion to steal the Master Bolt, Chiron insisted. He hid it in the underworld, knowing full well that Zeus would blame Poseidon. I don't pretend to understand the Lord of the Dead's motives perfectly, or why he chose this time to start a war, but one thing is certain. Percy must go to the underworld, find the Master Bolt, and reveal the truth. Grover started trembling. He'd started eating pinnacle cards like potato chips. The poor guy needed to complete a quest with Percy or Naruto so he could get his searcher's license, whatever that was. Hey, if it is Dad, Naruto started. Can't we complain to our uncles and then they could take care of it? Suspecting and knowing are not the same, Chiron said. Besides, even if the other gods suspect Hades and I imagine Poseidon does they couldn't retrieve the bolt themselves. Gods cannot cross each other's territories except by invitation. That is another ancient rule. Heroes, on the other hand, have certain privileges. They can go anywhere, challenge anyone, as long as they're bold enough and strong enough to do it. No god can be held responsible for a hero's actions. Why do you think the gods always operate through humans? I just thought they were lazy. Naruto shrugged, or just way too busy with their own domain. You're saying we're being used, Percy stated, irritable about this information. I'm saying it's no accident that your father have claimed you now. It's a very risky gamble, but they're in desperate situations. They need you? Great, the kids got to save our parents' asses. Naruto sighed, and Grover nodded to that and chuckled a bit at that. You've known I was Poseidon's son all along, haven't you? Asked Percy, and for Naruto as well, being the son of Hades and all. Percy accused. I had my suspicions. As I said, I've spoken to the Oracle, too. Chiron said calmly. So let me get this straight, Percy said. We're supposed to go to the underworld and confront the Lord of the Dead. Check, Chiron stated. Find the most powerful weapon in the universe. Check, Naruto said with a gleam in his eye. And get it back to Olympus before the summer solstice, in 10 days. That's about right, Chiron said. Did I mention that Maine is very nice this time of year? Grover asked weakly as he gulped down an ace of hearts. You don't have to go, Percy told him. I can't ask that of you. He took a deep breath, then stood, brushing the shredded cards and aluminum bits off his t-shirt. You guys saved my life. If you're serious about wanting me along, I won't let you down. That made both of the boys smile, Percy because he wanted another friend with them and Naruto because he was proud of the satyr. All the way, G-Man, Percy said and then turned to Chiron. So where do we go? The Oracle just said to go west. The entrance to the underworld is always in the west. It moves from age to age, just like Olympus. Right now, of course, it's in America. Where? Naruto asked. Chiron looked surprised. I thought that would be obvious enough. The entrance to the underworld is in Los Angeles. LA? Sweet. Naruto cheered. Oh, Percy said. Naturally. So we just get on a plane? No. Grover shrieked. Percy, what are you thinking? Have you ever been on a plane in your life? Percy shook his head in the negative. Percy, think, Chiron said. You are the son of the sea god. Your father's bitterest rival is Zeus, Lord of the Sky. Your mother knew better than to trust you in an airplane. You would be in Zeus's domain. You would never come down again alive. Okay, so what about me? Naruto asked. To be honest, I am not sure, Chiron said thoughtfully, but to be safe, I would say that you stay on the ground as well. Overhead, lightning crackled. Thunder boomed. Naruto looked up and said, I forgot about that. Okay, Percy said, determined not to look at the storm. So, we'll travel overland. That's right, Chiron said. 2 companions may accompany you. Grover is one. The other has already volunteered, if you will accept her help. Gee, Percy said, feigning surprise while smirking to Naruto, who did the same. Who else would be stupid enough to volunteer for a quest like this? The blonde looked behind Chiron to see his fellow blonde behind the man. He smirked as she took off the Yankees hat and she shimmered into existence for all to see. I've been waiting a long time for a quest, seaweed brain, she said. Athena is no fan of Poseidon, but if you're going to save the world, I'm the best person to keep you from messing up. She then turned to Naruto and said, besides, we got the ninja ghost here to protect us if we need it. Naruto, there is one thing I am having trouble understanding. Can you see me even if I am invisible? Yep. Being a kid of Hades, who has the helm of darkness is a plus for me. Since I am guessing that hat of yours uses shadows to make you invisible, I can still see you. Oh, pouted Annabeth. If you do say so yourself, Percy said with a smirk. I suppose you have a plan, wise girl. Her cheeks colored. Do you want my help or not? The 4 of us will work just fine. Percy said in return, happy to be traveling with people he knows and trusts. Excellent, Chiron said. This afternoon, we can take you as far as the bus terminal in Manhattan. After that, you are on your own. Lightning flashed. Rain poured down on the meadows that were never supposed to have violent weather. No time to waste, Chiron said. I think you should all get packing. Already done, Naruto commented as seals glowed all over his body, and in place of his clothes, was his umbu gear. I got everything I need right here. You have got to TV me that. Annabeth said with wide eyes. Maybe. Naruto said thoughtfully. He then had a strange thought. You know, this may be Jiraiya speaking through me, but, do you think that when the Oracle was alive, she was hot? Everyone just blinked olishly at the son of Hades. What? That is just weird, Naruto. Percy replied. Ah well, I meet you guys here when you get back. I gotta go tell Tyla that we are going get her dad's toy of mass destruction back for him. With that, Naruto shined to the tree. Annabeth turned back to Percy and asked, is he always like that? Yes. Both Percy and Grover said. Wow, 20 pages, hope you all likes this because me hands won't stop shaking today. Review please. The poll will be up for another chapter, so vote in the reviews again if you wish. I have an idea what I want to do with that. Also, at the end of the 5th book, should Naruto become a deity along with Thalia and Clarice? If so, what should they be deities of? Chapter 11, Who Needed That Bus Anyway? Naruto, Prince of the Underworld. Chapter 11. Okay. His main fear will be losing his friends, but a running gag fear will be pale old guys. On an angry note, I pre-ordered Lost Hero and still have not gotten it? Damn you Borders! Wait. Thalia cut in, stopping Naruto's explanation. You are telling me that you, Annabeth, Grover, and this Percy are going a quest to get my father's lightning bolt, which you call his toy of mass destruction. Why do you call it that again? Well, Naruto replied while scratching the back of his head, him and everyone is making a big deal about, and with the odd dreams me and Percy have been getting, the man is acting like a brat about it. You know, I am not surprised. Thalia deadpanned. Ah well, looks like we are going the highway to hell. Naruto shrugged. Thalia burst out laughing. You do know that made a song with the same title, right? Huh, I am going to have to listen to that, Naruto said thoughtfully. Well, I better get going. I will see you later, Thalia. Naruto said as he started fading away from Limbo. Thalia had an unsure face at first, but just waked forward and planted a kiss on Naruto's fading cheek, shocking the boy greatly. Good luck, Naruto, she said as he disappeared. She then sighed. He probably won't get it. XXXX. Okay, that was new, Naruto said as he put a hand to his cheek. He then made his way to where he was meeting his traveling companions in a dazed state, trying to figure out why Thalia had kissed him on the cheek. Soon, Grover, Annabeth, and Percy arrived in their outside the camp attire. Of course for Percy, it was what has been wearing all week. For Annabeth, that was the same too, but with same book on famous classical architecture, go figure. He also wondered if they were going to get caught thanks to that knife she had. I mean their weapons changed into semi-useful items, but hers does not. Oh well. Grover wore his fake feet and his pants to pass as human. He wore a green Rasta-style cap, because when it rained his curly hair flattened and anyone could just see the tips of his horns. His bright orange backpack was full of scrap metal and apples to snack on. In his pocket was a set of reed pipes his daddy goat had carved for him, even though he only knew 2 songs, Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 12 and Hilary Duff's So Yesterday, both of which sounded pretty bad on reed pipes. Kind of sad when you think about it. Naruto, Annabeth asked, noticing Naruto's state. What is with the dumb look? I am not sure why, but when I was fading out of Limbo to meet you guys, Thalia just came up and kissed me and told me good luck. Naruto numbly. Percy sighed and smacked his head, and Grover chuckled a bit. You have got to be kidding me, Annabeth thought. A relative of Aphrodite doesn't know about love, by the gods? Don't worry about it too much, Naruto, you will find out eventually, hopefully. I guess, so how we getting out of here? Naruto asked. You got me, Chiron just said to come back here. Percy said. Correct, Percy, now I would like you to meet Argus. Chiron said, coming up to them in his wheelchair form with a surfer dude tailing him. The head of security, Annabeth said respectively. Naruto just quirked an eyebrow. That job was perfect for this guy in Naruto's opinion, for this guy has eyes all over his body. He will drive you into the city, and, well, keep an eye on things. Chiron and Naruto chuckled at the inside joke. Hey, Luke came running up the hill, carrying a pair of basketball shoes. Glad I caught you. Naruto noticed that Annabeth was blushing. Oh god, don't tell me she is a fangirl like Sakura, poor deluded girl. Naruto thought. Of course he didn't have much say in that matter with his old crush for the pink-haired girl, but being in this world long enough opened his eyes. Yay for enlightenment? Just wanted to say good luck, Luke told them. And I thought, maybe you could use these. He then handed the shoes to Percy. These shoes looked like any normal pair of shoes to him. Maya. Whitebird's wings sprouted out of the heels. Percy was so startled that he dropped the shoes, and Naruto said, "Well, you don't see shoes like that every day." "Awesome," Grover said. Luke smiled. "Those served me well when I was on my quest. Gift from Dad. Of course, I don't use them much these days." He then had a sad expression on his face. Somehow, Naruto knew he was thinking the other quest he did to get to this came with Annabeth, Grover, and Thalia. He didn't know what to do and patted Luke on the shoulder. Luke smiled sadly at him. "Hey, man," Percy said. "Thanks." "Listen, Percy." Luke looked uncomfortable. "A lot of hopes are riding on you and Naruto. So just kill some monsters for me, okay?" "Huh? With Percy's luck, we might just run into a few." Naruto laughed. "Hey." Percy pouted. "Ah, don't worry. You got me and my awesome ninja skills." Naruto boosted. "Besides, you could use the practice." Percy chuckled a bit at that. He knew was not that great with a sword, yet. "I am just the backup, along with Annabeth's brains and Grover's magical flute powers. God, I am never going to get used to that." "I guess you are, right?" Percy smiled and then shook Luke's hand. "We'll kill one just for you, the man." "Good," Luke said as he then shook Naruto and Grover's hands as well and gave Annabeth a hug, who looked ready to pass out. "Why does that remind me of Hinata?" After Luke was gone, Percy smirked, and to Annabeth, "You're hyperventilating." "I am not. You let him capture the flag instead of you, didn't you?" "Oh. Why do I want to go anywhere with you, Percy?" Annabeth then stomped down the other side of the hill they met on, where a white SUV waited on the shoulder of the road. Argus followed, jingling his car keys. "Oh, this is going to be fun," Naruto cackled, scaring Grover. Of course Percy had already gathered the shoes and was hastily following Annabeth, so he didn't hear what Naruto said. "You scare me sometimes, Naruto," Grover replied. "Really? Does my pranking side really scare you that badly?" "Yes, oh well, come on Grover. Let's to go to hell," Naruto said with a carefree attitude. "You are not making this any better on me," Grover grimaced. "Sorry about that, man," Naruto said as they were at the car. Once near the car, Percy remembered that it would not be a good idea for him to wear the flying shoes. So, he gave them to Grover. Naruto could not help but laugh a little at that. A flying satyr. Sad to say, when Grover tried to fly, the results were less than desirable, but it was funny to watch as Grover had not control on where he was going. Poor possessed lawnmower, I mean Grover. Chiron rolled up them and said, "Good luck you too." "No, I know Naruto has some training, albeit ninja training, but I wish I had more time to train you, Percy. I mean, Hercules and Jason and lot more training after all." "That's okay. I just wish," Percy said but stopped himself, not wanting to sound selfish and not getting a magical item to help him on his quest. "What am I thinking?" Chiron cried. "I can't let you get away without this." He pulled a pen from his coat pocket and handed it to Percy. It was an ordinary disposable ballpoint, black ink, removable cap. "Gee," Percy said. "Thanks." "Percy, that's a gift from your father. I've kept it for years, not knowing you were who I was waiting for. But the prophecy is clear to me now. You are the one," Chiron stated. Percy took a better look at the pen and remembered how he and Naruto vaporized Mrs. Dodds. Could this be the same weapon? He took off the cap, and the pen grew longer and heavier in his hand. In a few seconds, it had turned into a shimmering bronze sword with a double-edged blade, a leather-wrapped grip, and a flat hilt riveted with gold studs. He smiled. Somehow, this sword felt right in his hands. "The sword has a long and tragic history that we need not go into," Chiron told him. "Its name is Anaklesmos. Riptide." Percy translated, surprised that he could do that so quickly. "Use it only for emergencies," Chiron said, "and only against monsters. No hero should harm mortals unless absolutely necessary, of course, but this sword wouldn't harm them in any case." "What do you mean it wouldn't harm mortals? How could it not?" Percy asked, confused as he looked at the deadly-looking blade. "The sword is celestial bronze, forged by the Cyclopes, tempered in the heart of Mount Etna," cooled in the river Lethe. It's deadly to monsters, to any creature from the underworld, provided they don't kill you first. But the blade will pass through mortals like an illusion. They simply are not important enough for the blade to kill. And I should warn you, as a demigod, you can be killed by either celestial or normal weapons. You are twice as vulnerable. Good to know, Percy replied, and after Chiron explained more about the blade, like he could not lose it and how to turn it back, he joined the others in the car. They turned back to see that Chiron was now under Thalia's tree, shooting of an arrow, which mean he was just sending them off. Naruto decided to interrupt the silence. So, you got your weapon, huh? Yeah, it is called Riptide. Percy smiled. What are your blades called, Naruto? Annabeth asked. Oh, the one that looks like a fox is called Fear and the one that looks like a black dragon is called Destruction, he said nonchalantly. Okay, why? Grover asked nervously. Hell if I know, I just got the feeling that they were called that. Naruto shrugged. Oh joy, Grover said. XXXX Argus drove them out of the countryside and into western Long Island. For Naruto and Percy, it felt weird to be out on the highway again. They did spend 2 weeks in the camp after all. Naruto caught Percy looking at all the McDonald's and other places like that on their way. He could not blame the kid, the camp was like a Renaissance fair after all. Percy was just regaining his grip on reality. So far so good, Percy told Annabeth. 10 miles and not a single monster. She gave him an annoyed look. It's bad luck to talk that way, seaweed brain. Remind me again, why do you hate me so much? I don't hate you. Could have fooled me. He mumbled. Hey, can't we all get along? Naruto interrupted, earning annoyed looks. Look, we're just not supposed to get along, okay? Our parents are rivals. Annabeth replied. Why? Percy asked dumbly. Annabeth sighed. How many reasons do you want? One time my mom caught Poseidon with his girlfriend in Athena's temple, which is hugely disrespectful. Another time, Athena and Poseidon competed to be the patron god for the city of Athens. Your dad created some stupid saltwater spring for his gift. My mom created the olive tree. The people saw that her gift was better, so they named the city after her. They must really like olives, replied Percy. Oh, forget it. Now, if she'd invented pizza that I could understand. I said, forget it. Naruto smirked. You know, that's just what our parents did. I don't understand why certain people have to hate each other for that reason alone. If everyone believed that, everyone would hate me because of all the crap my dad did. Just like in Konoha. Naruto said, the last part softly to himself, but they heard it. Percy knew what Naruto was talking about, but the others didn't, why, and they didn't want to upset him, so they didn't ask. However, Annabeth considered Naruto's words but kept quiet. Traffic slowed them down in Queens. By the time they got into Manhattan it was sunset and was starting to rain. Argus dropped them at the Greyhound station on the Upper East Side, not far from Percy's mom and Gabe's apartment. Naruto noticed out of the corner of his eye that there was a soggy fly with Percy's face on it. What was odd though was that Percy ripped it down quickly before the other two could see it. Odd. Argus unloaded their bags, made sure they got the bus tickets, then drove away, the eye on the back of his hand opening to watch them as he pulled out of the parking lot. Naruto noticed that Percy was looking off into the distance, probably thinking about his home. Naruto slapped his back and said, Don't worry man, we'll get your mom back. I know, Percy said with a sad smile. Grover shouldered his backpack. He gazed down the street in the direction Percy was looking. You want to know why she married him, Percy? Huh? Were you reading mind like Naruto? Just your emotions. Grover shrugged. Guess I forgot to tell you satyrs can do that. You were thinking about your mom and your stepdad, right? That ability is pretty useful. Naruto smirked. Your mom married Gabe for you. Grover told him you calittle him smelly, but you've got no idea. The guy has this aura. Yuck. I can smell him from here. I can smell traces of him on you, and you haven't been near him for a week. Thanks, Percy deadpanned. Where's the nearest shower? You should be grateful, Percy. Your stepfather smells so repulsively human he could mask the presence of any demigod. As soon as I took a whiff inside his Camaro, I knew, Gabe has been covering your scent for years. If you hadn't lived with him every summer, you probably would have been found by monsters a long time ago. Your mom stayed with him to protect you. She was a smart lady. She must have loved you a lot to put up with that guy if that makes you feel any better. Ugh, that still has to suck though. Just walking in there, made me want to gag. Naruto replied, and when he got odd looks he said, heightened senses for the Kyuubi. They nodded after that, and Percy stared a little more into the distance until they had to move on. They got restless waiting for the bus and decided to play some hacky sack with one of Grover's apples. Annabeth was unbelievable. She could bounce the apple off her knee, her elbow, her shoulder, whatever. Naruto was the same, but he somehow got it to land on his nose. The game ended when Perk tossed the apple toward Grover and it got too close to his mouth. In one mega-goat bite, their hacky sack disappeared, core, stem, and all. Grover blushed. He tried to apologize, but the other three were too busy on the ground, laughing. Though, Naruto did wonder how Grover managed to do that. Finally the bus came. As they were standing in line to board, Grover started looking around, sniffing the air like he smelled his favorite school cafeteria delicacy, enchiladas. What is it? Percy asked, curious. I don't know, he said tensely. Maybe it's nothing. As they boarded, Percy was get nervous because his friends were acting differently. Annabeth kept slapping her Yankees cap nervously against her thigh. Grover kept looking everywhere, and Naruto had a serious face on. Yeah, something was up. As the last passengers got on, Annabeth clamped her hand on Percy's knee. Percy. An old lady had just boarded the bus. She wore a crumpled velvet dress, lace gloves, and a shapeless orange knit hat that shadowed her face, and she carried a big paisley purse. When she tilted her head up, her black eyes glittered, and Percy gained a freaked-out face. It was Mrs. Dodds. Older, more withered, but definitely the same evil face. Percy silently whimpered and scrunched down in his seat. Behind her came two more old ladies, one in a green hat, one in a purple hat. Otherwise they looked exactly like Mrs. Dodds, same gnarled hands, paisley handbags, wrinkled velvet dresses. Triplet demon grandmothers. They sat in the front row, right behind the driver. The two on the aisle crossed their legs over the walkway, making an X. It was casual enough, but it sent a clear message: nobody leaves. The bus pulled out of the station, and they headed through the slick streets of Manhattan. She didn't stay dead long, Percy said, trying to keep his voice from quivering. I thought you said they could be dispelled. For a lifetime. Percy, these are the right-hand, grannies of my dad, they probably don't stay down for long. Besides, they feel more powerful than at the museum. Yeah, and I said if you're lucky, Annabeth said. You're obviously not, and if Naruto is right, they must be at full power, all three of them, Grover whimpered. The Immortals. It's okay, Annabeth said, obviously thinking hard. The Furies. The three worst monsters from the underworld. No problem. No problem. We'll just slip out the windows. They don't open, Grover moaned. A back exit, she suggested, looking to the back, only to find none. Naruto growled, I could always make one. No, we don't need to cause a scene and bring attention to ourselves. Annabeth replied, and I wanted to have some fun. Naruto hung his head in defeat. They won't attack us with witnesses around, Percy said. Will they? Mortals don't have good eyes, Annabeth reminded me. Their brains can only process what they see through the mist. They'll see three old ladies killing us, won't they? She thought about it. Hard to say. But we can't count on mortals for help. Maybe an emergency exit in the roof. They entered the Lincoln Tunnel, and the bus went dark except for the running lights down the aisle. It was eerily quiet without the sound of the rain. Mrs. Dodds got up. In a flat voice, as if she'd rehearsed it, she announced to the whole bus, I need to use the restroom. So do I, said the second sister. So do I, said the third sister. They all started coming down the aisle. I've got it. Annabeth said. Percy, take my hat. What? You're the one they want. Turn invisible and go up the aisle. Let them pass you. Maybe you can get to the front and get away. But you guys, there's an outside chance they might not notice us, Annabeth said. You're a son of one of the big three. Your smell might be overpowering. Yeah, and if they come after me, well, they won't know what hit them. Naruto said. Now go. I can't just leave you. Don't worry about us, Grover said. Go. With trembling hands, Percy put on the cap and started up the aisle. Naruto watched his friend intently, hoping Annabeth's plan would work. Percy got 10 rows up before he had to dodge into an empty seat as to not run into them. Mrs. Dodds stopped, sniffing, and looked straight at Percy. His heart started pounding like crazy and Naruto fists clenched. Apparently she didn't see anything. She and her sisters kept going. Naruto somewhat relaxed after that and Percy quickly made his way to the front of the bus. He was about to press the emergency stop button when he heard a hideous wailing from the back row. The old ladies were not old ladies anymore. Their faces were still the same, which couldn't get any uglier if you asked anyone, but their bodies had shriveled into leathery brown hag bodies with bats' wings and hands and feet like gargoyle claws. Their handbags had turned into fiery whips. The Furies surrounded Grover, Naruto, and Annabeth, lashing their whips, hissing, "Where is it? Where?" The other people on the bus were screaming, cowering in their seats. They saw something. "All right. He's not here," Annabeth yelled. "He's gone." "Yeah, so can't we all get along?" Naruto asked with a small smile. The Furies raised their whips. One of them snapped it where Naruto's head would have been if he did not dodge. "Yikes. I guess not," he replied as he took out Fear. Annabeth drew her bronze knife, and Grover grabbed a tin can from his snack bag and prepared to throw it. Percy then did something so stupid that should be posted as the ADHD poster child. He grabbed the wheel of the bus and it slammed against the side of the tunnel, grinding metal, throwing sparks a mile behind them. The bus careened out of the Lincoln Tunnel and back into the rainstorm. People and monsters were tossed around the bus, cars plowed aside like bowling pins. Somehow the driver found an exit. The bus shot off the highway, through half a dozen traffic lights, and ended up barreling down one of those New Jersey rural roads where you can't believe there's so much nothing right across the river from New York. There were woods to the left, the Hudson River to the right, and the driver seemed to be veering toward the river. Percy got another great idea and slammed on the emergency. The bus wailed, spun a full circle on the wet asphalt, and crashed into the trees. The emergency lights came on. The door flew open. The bus driver was the first one out, the passengers yelling as they stampeded after him. Percy stepped into the driver's seat and let them pass. The Furies regained their balance. They lashed their whips at Annabeth while she waved her knife and yelled in ancient Greek, telling them to back off. Grover threw tin cans, while Naruto cut up the whips there were aimed at him. "Don't think just because you are the son of the master, we will go easy on you, boy," one of the old crones lashed out. "Why would I expect that?" Naruto commented while smirking as he sliced up the whip that came for him, infuriating the Fury even more. "Hey!" Percy yelled, taking off the hat and revealing himself. The Furies turned, baring their yellow fangs at the son of Poseidon, and he instantly regretted it, which was easily seen thanks to his freaked-out expression. Mrs. Dodds stalked up the aisle, just as she used to do in class, like she was about to give him another failed paper. Every time she flicked her whip, red flames danced along the barbed leather. Her two ugly sisters hopped on top of the seats on either side of her and crawled toward him like huge nasty lizards. "Percy Jackson," Mrs. Dodds said, in an accent that was definitely from somewhere farther south than Georgia. "You have offended the gods. You shall die." "I liked you better as a math teacher," Percy told her. Naruto heard him and said, "Oh, that's news to me." Mrs. Dodds growled and yelled, "Stay out of this." Naruto grumbled something inaudible, "Help Annabeth and Grover sneak up behind the creepy-looking grannies." Percy had, by this point, uncapped the pen and it was not the sword that helped kill the old bag. The Furies hesitated. Mrs. Dodds had felt Riptide's blade before. She obviously didn't like seeing it again. "Submit now," she hissed, "and you will not suffer eternal torment." "Nice try," Percy replied. "Percy, look out," Annabeth cried. Mrs. Dodds lashed her whip around his sword hand while the Furies on the other side lunged at him. Percy grimaced at the pain that whip was causing, but he regained some composure to strike back. He used the hilt of his to knock away the Fury on the left, but noticed that he would not have enough time to strike the one on the right because she was coming in too fast. That was when Naruto suddenly appeared and kicked the hag away, shocking the leader of the Furies so bad that she loosened her grip on Percy. He took that opportunity to get free. Mrs. Dodds glared at Naruto and said, "Stay out of this? We were ordered not to kill you, but that just gives up free range on what we could do to you." Naruto had a deadpanned expression on his face. At that. "Sorry, but I like younger girls." This made them even more mad than they were, which probably was not a good thing to do, because the one on the right lunged at him, but he smirked and spun on his heel to stab her in the neck, killing her instantly. Annabeth got Mrs. Dodds in a wrestler's hold and yanked her backward while Grover ripped the whip out of her hands. "Ow!" he yelled. "Ow! Hot! Hot!" The fury that Percy had hit before came back in full force and tried to slice him with her claws, but he swung riptide and she broke open like a piñata. Mrs. Dodds was trying to get Annabeth off her back. She kicked, clawed, hissed, and bit, but Annabeth held on while Grover got Mrs. Dodds's legs tied up in her own whip. Finally they both shoved her backward into the aisle. Mrs. Dodds tried to get up, but she didn't have room to flap her bat wings, so she kept falling down. "Zeus will destroy you," she promised. "Hades will have your soul." "Hey, let them try, we can beat anything you throw at us," Naruto said happily. "Bracas mis vesi mini," Percy yelled, which oddly meant, "Eat my pants." "Fools, you will die," the Fury yelled. Thunder shook the bus and Naruto smelled gas. "Get out," Annabeth yelled. "Now." They rushed outside and found the other passengers wandering around in a daze, arguing with the driver, or running around in circles yelling, "We're going to die." A Hawaiian-shirted tourist with a camera snapped their photograph before they could put away their weapons. "Our bags," Grover realized. "We left our boom." The windows of the bus exploded as the passengers ran for cover. Lightning shredded a huge crater in the roof, but an angry wail from inside told them that Mrs. Dodds was not yet dead. "Run," Annabeth said. "She's calling for reinforcements. We have to get out of here." They plunged into the nearby woods as the rain started to fall, the flaming bus behind them and nothing but darkness ahead of them. Naruto smirked and looked at Annabeth while running. "So, what was that about not causing a scene and having all the attention on us?" "Oh shut it," her rang throughout the forest. The end of that chapter. I started this a few days ago because of all the midterms, so yeah, I now have the Lost Hero book, yay. Welcome back guys to another part of What If Naruto Was Son of Hades. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video. Let's get started. Chapter 10. Does the Oracle do drugs? Naruto, Prince of the Underworld. Chapter 10. Fearpole, losing his friends and those he loves. 9 ghosts, 4 unnaturally pale old guys who like little boys. 10 losing to fate. 3 everyone had moved to the area in the middle of all the cabins. People had been shocked about Percy being the son of Poseidon, but that was trampled on by the shock of Naruto's lineage. His family must have been interesting to keep the blood of a primordial goddess, or ancient titan, running through his veins. "Naruto, you never cease to amaze and surprise people, that much is for sure," Chiron said with a sigh. "Yay, I got that a lot back home. I was always doing the impossible, like this time I painted the Hokage Monument, our version of Mount Rushmore, in broad daylight, wearing Kill Me Orange, and in a ninja village. I mean, no one noticed until after I was done." Naruto chuckled and looked at everyone's reaction. Percy heard this story already, but he never could stop